Our worlds are in danger.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Legacy United Voyager class Cybertron universe Vector Prime, arguably one of the most powerful characters in existence due to him having the ability to control both space and time. And when it does come down to his robot mode, despite being a retool of the G2 universe G-Axis, I still think he is surprisingly pretty spot on to how he did originally appear in the Cybertron TV show. So as we check out the details, the head sculpt I think is looking sick. This guy is considered to be centuries years old, and I believe in some timelines this is supposed to be the inspiration behind what would become the iconic Autobot insignia. I also think the detail and the sculpt work throughout is looking sharp, even down to the circuitry, which whilst may not be accurate to this design, I still think is most definitely packing a punch. Although the second you spin this bad boy here to the side, I'm gonna be honest guys, I really can't say that I'm a big fan of those big mighty armatures. I really do think they kind of stick out like a sore thumb, especially during posing, and I'm almost certain that maybe there could have been a slightly better way to have redesigned them. But overall, it still is a pretty decent Vector Prime update, and I guess with the release of this character, the multiversal incursion that has now been going down in the Legacy lineup may have just finally come to an end. Which, speaking of, as we check out Vector Prime's accessories, up first we do see the return of his iconic sword, which just by itself had the ability to quite simply tear through into different dimensions. Next up, we have by far the best out of the bunch, the return of the iconic Cyberplanet key, which once embedded into the chest of Vector Prime, gives him the ability over all space and time. For whatever reason, if any of those weapons fail him, then he could totally make use out of his own cape and transform that bad boy into two full-blown shields, again to protect him from any multiversal threats. Turning to Vector's posability, the time has now come for us to see the true power of this Prime. So to begin with, the head can look up, it can look down, it can tilt side to side and turn both left to right. The shoulders have no issues in kicking forwards, in kicking backwards. They can also go out to the side, the bicep can turn, the elbow can bend way past 90 despite only packing a single joint. The wrist can rotate all the way around and the forefingers can be open and closed, which I thought was sick. The waist also has no issues in turning all the way around, and due to all of the multi-layered hinge joints on the back, you could totally get the cape out of the way, or if you really wanted to, completely detach it. When it comes down here to the hips, these can kick outwards, they can then kick both forwards and backwards, the thigh can turn all the way around, and the knee can bend again way past 90, much like the elbows, only on a single pin joint. And then finally, as we check out the ankles, in addition to rocking inwards, they can also tilt both forwards and backwards, allowing again for a pretty dynamic range. But as I'm sure you guys all know by now, to see what this Prime is truly capable of, now let's put him through the pose test. Transporting our way into some robot mode comparisons, first up we have the G2 Universe G-Axis. Now to my surprise, with the exception of the head sculpt, the shoulder pads, the chest plate, the center part of the skirt armor, and then finally a few components on the back, Vector Prime reuses a lot from this original figure. And when you kind of take that into consideration, honestly guys, I think they've done a pretty banging job in making these guys appear to be two completely different characters, although it still would have been wicked to have seen what they would have done had they completely retooled Vector Prime as compared alongside the Cybertron universe Starscream. I still think this figure is easily one of the highlights from the Legacy lineup, and the same can also be said as we check out both Override and the Deluxe class Hotshot. So it really does beg the question as to why Vector Prime ultimately did get the short end of the stick, because I think he by far has to be one of the most important characters to come from that Cybertron lineup. Here he is compared alongside the myth, the legend that is the Earthrise Optimus Prime. Then last but by no means least, we are whacking out the Siege Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime. Using the power of the Cyber Planet Key, the time has now come for us to propel our way through this guy's transformation. So for the first step, take the shoulder pad and collapse this here downwards. Then for the next step, spin to the inside part of the forearm. First of all, pop open this panel and slide that baby there backwards. You can then take a hold of the fist and slide this here inside, and then snap this panel here back over the top. Again guys, make sure to do the same here on the opposite side. So snap this panel here down, spin to the inside part of the forearm, pop open this panel and fold it here backwards. Then what you'll do is take a hold of the fist and begin to slide that there inside, just like that. Then for the next step, I would take a hold of the waist and begin to spin this here all the way around until the front is now facing the back. Because guys, for the next step, we are then going to take a hold of the wings and begin to angle these here upwards, to be honest, just to get these babies out of the way. Then for the next step, we can take a hold of the backpack and slide this here downwards. We can then spin around here to the front, take a hold of the chest plate, angle this here forwards. Now a really neat trick, which is different in comparison to G-Axis, is this does actually spin all the way around, revealing some sweet details. We can now extend that there all the way up, just like that. With that now complete, we can then take the head sculpt and snap this here downwards all of the way, and then what you'll do is take a hold of that backpack and snap it into its original configuration. We can then spin down here to the legs, take a hold of this panel and slide this here all the way back until eventually this does very nicely click into place. Again guys, make sure to do exactly the same there on the opposite side. We can then spin around to the back, take a hold of the booster and detach it away from the shin, just like that. We can then take a hold of the foot and angle it here backwards. Now we are going to make use out of that double hinge joint. We are going to begin to extend this here all the way down, just like that, until eventually the booster snaps very nicely into what was originally the base of the foot. Again guys, make sure to do the same on the opposite side. So take a hold of the foot, angle it here backwards, making use out of that double hinge joint, slide this here downwards until that booster very nicely snaps there into place. With that now complete, we can then take a hold of this piece and begin to angle it here backwards. Now at the very same time, I would recommend to push the wings here upwards, again just to get those babies there out of the way. Once that's complete, we are then going to take a hold of the kneecap and slide it first of all underneath this slot, and then make sure that that tab snaps into the underside. So to demonstrate, slide that in first of all and then snap that baby there into place. Take the second leg and do exactly the same, just like that. We can then proceed to combine this here directly down the middle and make sure to give a pinch right to the very tip. With that now complete, we can spin to the underside, take a hold of the shoulder and begin to angle this here inwards. We can then pull down and begin extending these joints all of the way, because now this tab is going to slide into that slot. So snap that there into place. Be sure to do exactly the same here for the opposite side. So angle that inwards, slide this here downwards until that tab does very nicely slide into the thigh, just like that. Then for the next step, we can take this section and begin to angle this here outwards. Do the same on the opposite side. We are now going to make use out of these hinge joints and begin to slide these here downwards until this catch eventually slides into a slot here on the underside, just like that. As I'm sure you guys would then guess, make sure to do exactly the same here on the opposite side, and that is the base ship mode now fully transformed. Although there is one final touch which we can add, which would be to combine him with the power of the Cyber Planet Key. Flying through the multiverse, here we have Vector Prime now fully transformed into his Cybertronian spacecraft. And again, considering that this guy is only a retool, I think he does a pretty banging job in matching how he did originally appear in the Transformers Cybertron TV show. Especially as we check out the details when it comes around here to the front end. All of those intricate mechanized cogs I think are looking sick. I am also a very big fan of the integration of the Cyber Planet Key. It is kind of cool to see this guy also totally rocking a full-blown minicom port, despite this guy unfortunately not including Safeguard. That does lead me to believe that maybe we will see him re-released in the future, maybe with that as an extra accessory. Although as we spin this guy here to the underside, I will be honest and say I am not the biggest fan at all of the undercarriage kibble. Now to be fair, it does look slightly better in comparison to G-Axis, mainly just because from the front these are slightly more circular in design, so I guess could kind of get away with being intakes, but still they don't look great, and considering that this is Vector Prime, would have a complete complete brand new sculpt gonna miss? Honestly guys, I don't really think so. But the second that we spin this bad boy around to the back, he is totally packing 2 inbuilt boosters which are blast effect compatible. So when it does come to ripping through the multiverse of madness, I should imagine that this guy will have absolute no issue in doing so. Ripping a rift in space and time and flying through some vehicle mode comparisons, first up we do see the return of that G2 Universe Jaxus. Now despite some of the issues that I do have here with Vector Prime, I will be honest guys, considering that he is only a retool, he is a much better looking figure in comparison to this guy, and for those of you who maybe never wanted the rear wing exposed, you could totally fold that bad boy down again to create for a slightly more Cybertron accurate look. Which, speaking of, here we have the Voyager class Starscream, and Vector Prime again is most definitely packing in the scale department, and despite being good, I really do think that this Starscream is an example that he could have been better. Honestly, I'm not quite sure why Vector Prime of all characters ended up being the retool out of the wave. Flying through a few more Cybertron comparisons, on the right hand side we have the Voyager class Override, the Deluxe class Cybertron Universe Hotshot, and to be fair, when it does come to scale, I think all of these Cybertron figures for the most part have most definitely been packing a punch. Finally, here he is compared alongside the myth, the legend, that is the Earthrise Optimus Prime, who despite being priced as a leader class, is more or less a Voyager class, but you guys can see the big size difference between these two vehicle forms. This definitely is a beastly spacecraft. So, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Legacy United Voyager class Cybertron Universe Vector Prime. Overall, considering that this guy is a retool of the G2 Universe Jaxus, I think they've mostly done a banging job, especially when it comes around to that robot mode. For a retool though, it would have been excellent had this guy also included his iconic minicon, that of course being Safeguard, especially as when it does come round to the vehicle form, he most definitely is packing a minicon port, which speaking of, I also think does a pretty decent job in matching how he did originally appear on the show. The only big issue that I take with it would be the undercarriage kibble, which had this guy been a complete brand new mold, much like the previous Cybertron figures, I'm almost certain that maybe they could have completely got rid of. I would love to get your guys' thoughts on this Vector Prime down in the comment section below. What do you guys think? I want to thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, transform and roll out!